main story tonight concerns organs, what I personally think should be inside of piñatas. Children have to learn that their actions have consequences. Specifically, we're going to talk about organ and body donation. Organ transplants are a topic that's been covered on TV in many profound ways, including in this moving clip.
2524. Dr. Casper to the ER. Dr. Casper to the ER. Nurse Henderson. Nurse Henderson.
Yes! That is what is known in the business as excellent fucking television. We've actually shown you that clip before on this show during a story about, and this is true, police interrogations. And we will absolutely show it to you again whenever the fuck we feel like it. But the point is, organ donation is extremely important, which is why there are so many ads encouraging you to do it, as well as TV commercials and PSAs, perhaps none more brilliant than this one from Australia.
Have you thought about maybe becoming an organ donor?
Is this really the best time to bring this up?
Oh, we get it, you know, no one wants to talk about death. But, you know, not all of us are going to the eternal paradise, and your organs could save the lives of up to 6 people.
Seven people. Not to mention how your bones and soft tissue and ligaments could change the lives of many others.
And corneas, you'll help blind people see.
What a miracle!
Obviously, I would do it. I'm Jesus.
Right. Of course Jesus would do it, though I will say Jesus having none of his vital organs might complicate his resurrection 3 days later. Easter probably wouldn't be as big if it celebrated the day Jesus rose from the dead and then instantly died again from renal failure. But that ad is right. Organ donation saves lives. And here in the US, it is widely popular. Surveys have consistently found 90% or more of Americans indicating their support for organ donation, and around half of respondents to a recent survey had signed up as donors, and a lot of lives get saved this way. Last year, there were over 42,000 organ transplants performed here in the US, but the system that handles our donations has considerable flaws, which sometimes leak into public view through stories like this one about a donor heart that was being sent for processing to make life-saving tissue grafts.
A Southwest Airlines flight had to turn around because someone left a human heart on board. Now, this happened over the weekend. This was a donor heart, of course, headed to a clinic in Seattle from Sacramento, but someone apparently forgot to unload the heart when it reached Seattle.
My understanding is that the pilot made an announcement when they turned around that they were returning because there was a heart that had been left on board.
That is awful. First, I left your heart on a Southwest flight. 100% sounds like a Lana Del Rey lyric. But also, it's worth mentioning, a few years ago, Southwest celebrated their 50th anniversary with a campaign featuring this graphic and the words, 50 years, one heart, which probably should have been updated to read 50 years, one heart that we totally forgot about and almost sent to Dallas. And while we, thankfully, had over 42,000 transplants last year, the list of those waiting for one is over 100,000 people long, with 17 people dying each day waiting for a transplant, making it pretty frustrating that experts say many thousands more could be done each year if our organ transplant system functioned smoothly. It's frankly no wonder people are desperately trying to circumvent the system by posting Craigslist ads, putting up social media posts, or even doing this.
Mark needs a kidney. And now, because of this giant billboard, that vital message is reaching hundreds of thousands of people as they pass through the crossroads of the world.
It's true, a man in need of a kidney resorted to putting up a giant billboard in Times Square. And that is clearly not what billboards should be used for. They should be used to advertise Broadway musicals, sportswear, or a weird bird that someone wants to win a contest on the other side of the world for some reason. Now, the good news is that ad helped that man to find a living kidney donor. But again, many aren't that fortunate. And the issue here isn't just with organs, because in a completely separate process, each year around 20,000 Americans generously donate their whole bodies to science. But that system has its own issues, because the definition of what constitutes science can be pretty loose. Your body could end up educating medical students, but it could also end up somewhere like the Museum of Osteology in Oklahoma City.
This is our human exhibit.
So when somebody agrees to donate their body to science, they could end up here.
It's possible they could end up here.
Do you think, though, that people, when they think about a donation of their body to science, that this is an example of that?
I would automatically think it would be yes.
You sure about that? When most people think about donating their body to science, they picture it in a reputable educational institution, not in some roadside bone collection, face down, arse up, arranged in a formation best described as Cirque du Soleil performer's favourite sex position. The fact is, our donated organs, while being incredibly important to saving lives, are not getting into enough people, and our donated bodies, incredibly important to advancing knowledge, aren't always treated with the care they deserve. So tonight, let's talk about our donation systems for both, and let's start with the system for organs. Organ transplants are fairly recent. The first successful operation only took place in 1954. For a little perspective, that was the year Oprah was born. Organ transplantation is only one Oprah old. From there, transplantation slowly became more common, and in 1984, Congress passed the National Organ Transplant Act that bans the sale of human organs and actually opened up access by establishing a national registry for organ matching to be run by a private non-profit under government contract. And the organisation that's held it ever since is called UNOS, or the United Network for Organ Sharing. It's a national body that sits atop 56 regional organ procurement organisations, and we'll get into them in a little bit. But UNOS also manages the nationwide transplant waiting list. And in this documentary from 20 years ago, the head of UNOS explained the logistics that go into deciding who gets which organ.
Many people think that the way the waiting list works is that once a person is on the list, that they just simply stay on the list until time has passed and they move up to the top of the list and receive an organ. But it does not work that way. It's a very dynamic and fluid situation in which each person is evaluated based on medical criteria, matched with information that's placed in the computer about each organ donor.
Right, well, you might assume that you just get on the list, wait your turn, an organ arrives for you at the hospital and a dog eats it off the floor while everyone nearby just kind of rolls with it. The actual matching process changes constantly based on which organs are available and which patients most need them. And in theory, that sounds amazing. But there are multiple problems. For starters, UNOS's computer systems leave a lot to be desired. A government report in 2021 cited aged software, periodic system failures, mistakes in programming, and over-reliance on manual input of data. Investigators even cited multiple system outages, with one from 2 years ago lasting about 3 hours, which isn't good because every minute matters when it comes to the viability of an organ for transplant. And as anyone who's seen Killers of the Flower Moon can tell you, 3 hours can be an incredibly long time. But it's not just technical errors. There are also serious issues with some of the ways UNOS has ranked patients in terms of need, most notably when it comes to kidneys. For years, it allowed transplant centres to employ something called a black race coefficient, which is just as bad as it sounds. Very basically, hospitals miscalculated black patients' kidney function based on racist junk science that said black bodies have higher muscle mass. That made black patients appear healthier than they were, pushing them down the kidney transplant list. And it's one reason why, even though black people are 4 times as likely to develop kidney failure as white people, they are much less likely to receive a transplant. And while UNOS's transplant network did approve the elimination of race-based calculations, they only did that last year and have given hospitals until January of next year to update their waiting list, which feels like too long, considering that the correct time to fix that problem is fucking ages ago. And then there's the fact that rich people can essentially cut the line. The way they can do this is by registering themselves at multiple transplant hospitals in multiple states, with a plan to fly somewhere on a moment's notice if one becomes available. It's called multiple listing. And it's how, in 2009, Steve Jobs was able to get a liver in a matter of weeks in Memphis, despite living in California, where there was a long wait list. But there's an obvious reason that that policy doesn't work for people who aren't billionaire CEOs.
Have you ever been told that you can be on multiple lists in centers all over the country?
No. That would be a great idea.
We explain the costs. Could you afford to fly to those places?
No. I don't think so.
Of course. Booking a last-minute ticket can be really expensive, even on a cheap airline like the one whose logo reminds you that they once lost track of a human heart on one of their Greyhound buses of the sky. And there's one final issue with UNOS, which is supposed to also coordinate shipping of organs between regions. For instance, a kidney that matches a rare blood type may need to be flown to another state. But even there, it relies on a primitive system of phone calls and paper manifests with no GPS or other electronic tracking required. And that, combined with fuck-ups by airlines and local organisations, helps explain why nearly 170 organs over a recent 5-year period could not be transplanted due to transportation problems. Kidneys have shown up late, damaged, or in one case, in a package that was squished with apparent tyre marks on it. And no doctor should have to use a flattened organ. They're performing a transplant, not making kidney piccata. One director of a transplant centre sums up the current situation like this.
When you order a toothbrush on Amazon, they can tell you minute to minute where that toothbrush is. Well, that's not been possible for organ transplantation, even though we think that what we do is considerably more important than ordering a toothbrush.
Look, we should obviously be able to track organs as easily as we track Amazon packages. And do you realise how shitty your organisation has to be for me to say, be more like Amazon? Things have to be pretty dicey for me to look into a camera and say with my actual mouth, please be more like the soulless mega-corporation created by evil Mr. Clean here. So, to put it mildly, UNOS could and should be doing a lot better. And I will say that it has new leadership now and that they are pushing for GPS tracking of all organs, which is good. But these changes have been too long coming. And UNOS is not the only player here. Remember, there are also the 56 organ procurement organisations, or OPOs. Each operates exclusively in its region and is tasked with working with the families of donors, facilitating the recovery of organs and coordinating their delivery to the transplant hospital. Let me just say, the job they do is very difficult. By one estimate, less than 2% of US deaths occur under circumstances conducive to donation. Typically, that entails someone being declared brain dead, on a ventilator, in a hospital, with oxygen and blood flowing to their organs. And OPOs have to approach families for consent at a time when they're often in shock about what's just happened. That is challenging. One OPO even put together a training video for its workers where they staged conversations with actors to show what issues might come up in the heat of that discussion. And it is an absolute roller coaster ride.
Hi, good morning. My name is
You know
Robin.
what? I already know who you are, and I know what you want, and I'm gonna tell you like I told the fucking doctor. You're not touching him. We're not donating shit.
If you just give me an opportunity.
You know what? Whoa, 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 stop. Do you see this here? Are you fucking serious right now? I've been sitting here for over a week. Over a week I've been sitting here waiting for someone to come talk to me. Oh, what? But now that they want something, now everybody wants to come talk to me now, right? And what? They sent what, this character in to do what, convince me? You're not touching my husband.
Wow. Rest in peace, both to her fictitious husband, but also to that scenery which just got chewed up by that acting powerhouse. We watch a lot of training videos for this show, and believe me, that woman is the Meryl Streep of the genre. Just to catch you up on this, the man declared brain dead is named Jorge, and they've only been married for 2 months. The guy sitting next to her is Jorge's brother. He doesn't want to making decisions for Jorge, and he initially doesn't want Jorge's organs donated either. But then he remembers that when they were children, their mom, who was working 2 jobs after their dad left, details that we do not need, but that we get anyway, would give them each their own allowance, but Jorge would give his to his brother. Why? Because he's just that giving, and eventually they both realise Jorge would want his organs to be donated. All I'm saying is there is a rich backstory here. Now, is it the most gripping medical drama that I've ever seen? No, as I've said, that would be this one. But it is still unexpectedly good. Now, a lot of OPOs try and get ahead of conversations like that by encouraging more people in their area to sign up as organ donors, sometimes through advertising and sometimes even using mascots. Gift of Life Michigan has Hartley T. Hart. Donate Life Wisconsin has Dottie the Donor Dot. Donate Life Arizona has Reggie the Donor Cactus, who from that photo seems to be high on glue. And LifeShare Oklahoma has Derek the Donor, who is an oil rig, because according to the organisation, oil is a precious resource, just like organs are a precious resource, except, no, they are not just like each other, Oklahoma. One of those should not go into your body. Besides, this is just a bad mascot. No one is going to look at that and think, I should sign up to donate my organs. They'll think, oh no, that Teletubby is suffocating. And because each OPO is responsible for procuring all the organs in its area, how well it performs has enormous consequences. And yet, until recently, that performance has been determined by the OPOs themselves, since they've been evaluated on self-reported data, which is a real problem. Because OPOs can fail to retrieve organs for many reasons, from exhaustion of overworked staffers to lack of resources. And employees have admitted to gaming the system to cover up those failures. Just listen to this former OPO exec.
I used to work at an OPO, and we reported false numbers to make it appear we were doing better than we were. Imagine there are 10 people who die, and they all have healthy organs that can save someone's life. We might later falsely report that only 4 or 5 of those people had healthy enough organs for donation and make it look like we were more successful in our recovery effort than we were. In fact, we might not even visit all 10 people.
That is not good. And look, I'm not saying that you can never lie about death, but it's got to be a good lie. Like when Robert Pattinson went on the Today Show and said, the first time I went to see the circus, somebody died. One of the clowns died. His little car exploded. The joke car exploded on him. And then later admitted, I actually made the whole thing up. The world is a better place because of that fake clown's death. But this is the kind of lie that could actually kill people. The government's estimated that if OPOs increase their performance, approximately 5,600 more organs per year could be transplanted, which is vital because, again, around 6,000 Americans die each year waiting for an organ transplant. But the problem is, despite the stakes being this high, OPOs have very little incentive to do better. The government has never decertified an OPO for poor performance. And poor performance can have serious consequences for people like LA poet Tonya Ingram, who desperately needed a kidney. She actually appeared before Congress 2 years ago to explain how her region's OPO, One Legacy, had failed her.
The organ procurement organization that serves Los Angeles, where I live, is failing according to the federal government. In fact, it's one of the worst in the country. One analysis showed it only recovered 31% of potential organ donors. Sometimes when you're in this diagnosis, it kind of feels like this is it, and I will just be waiting forever until I'm no longer here.
That is awful. And to make it worse, the then CEO of One Legacy, Tom Moan, wrote her an email defending the job he'd done and suggesting that the #1 thing she could do to improve your chances and your community's chances of a life-saving transplant is to register as a donor and help people in your ethnic group, in particular, to choose to donate life. And if you're ever typing the phrase, your ethnic group, into an email, Clippy should just appear and say, no, stop what you're doing right now. And I have to say, One Legacy says they are deeply regretful for the email, which they want you to know was a personal communication from Tom Moan, very much throwing him under the bus like a kidney in a box. But at this point, it should be clear, our system of managing donated organs is nowhere near where it should be. But depressingly, it's actually a paragon of care and thoughtfulness compared to what happens when someone donates their body to science, which brings us to whole body donation. That is a choice thousands of Americans make every year, either for themselves or when a loved one's organs aren't suitable for donation. And it is absolutely essential to both scientific research and medical training, as this med school video will attest.
The beauty and complexity of the human body can really only be taught through the process of studying an anatomical donor.
Donations provide a tactile sense of learning and really highlight the variation amongst human beings in a way that virtual reality just can't yet.
I think that this program allows people to practice and to learn in a way that will really help their future patients.
Exactly. Donations to science can help doctors better understand the human body. For example, if I donated my body, maybe they could figure out how a man can age 47 years in a single decade. It doesn't seem like it should be biologically possible. I'm probably going to be fine. I'm going to live forever. And in theory, that is great. Unfortunately, in practice, you might not end up in front of medical students. Instead, you could end up here.
On a bright Sunday morning in Portland earlier this month.
This is somebody that donated their body to science.
A few dozen people spent the day inside at this downtown hotel. They paid up to $500 a seat in the ballroom to sit up close to the mysterious figure draped in a white sheet.
Heard about it through a friend.
decided to broaden my experiences.
The sheet comes off, exposing the corpse of an 86-year-old man. This in-person pay-per-view event puts regular people, paying customers, within an arm's length of something usually reserved for doctors and scientists.
Okay, clearly, a Marriott hotel autopsy is stretching the definition of science. And not to get sidetracked, but did that guy say he heard about it through a friend? Because there is only one way that conversation should go. Your friend says, hey, want to go to a live autopsy? To which you say, I'm sorry, what? To which he says, yeah, they're dissecting a body. To which you say, what kind of animal? To which he says, no, it's a human man. To which you respond, why would anyone go all the way to a medical school to watch? To which he interrupts with, oh, no, it's not at a medical school. It's in the ballroom of a Marriott in downtown Portland. But we have to be out by 3. There's a quinceañera. To which you reply, wait, what now? To which he says, yeah, and it's only $500 to get in. To which your only response should be, I'll pay you $500 right now to never speak to me ever again. This friendship is over. And I will say, the explanation offered by the man who hosted that event wasn't great.
The Body Buyer, deathscience.org, is run by Jeremy Siliberto, who has no professional credentials. It was Siliberto who brought the Portland Body Show to life and had planned one for Seattle as well on Halloween Day.
Can you guarantee they had knowledge that he knew that his body would be used in this way?
I can guarantee that he knew his body would be used for medical education.
Oh, bullshit! And I've got to say, I'm not surprised that that long-lost member of My Chemical Romance doesn't have any medical credentials. But that still doesn't explain why he's somehow providing medical education. And yet, that is totally legal. Because bodies donated to science are bought and sold in a virtually unregulated market. There is no federal law and no government agency monitors what happens to cadavers pledged for use in medical research and education. There are also no government-mandated non-profits here. Instead, there are for-profit companies known as body brokers, or as they prefer to be called, non-transplant tissue banks, who very literally sell bodies off for parts. One of the few rules that even applies to them is a statute adopted in 47 states called the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act that requires donors must provide informed consent, with those agreements typically stipulating that the body will be used for research and education. But medical research and education is not clearly defined, and as you just saw, that can technically mean that your body might be carved up in a Marriott for the entertainment of a grown man in a fedora. And even organisations that do supply bodies to medical schools, like Illinois' Anatomical Gift Association, can conduct themselves poorly. It was accused by one employer of mishandling and mistreating bodies, leaving some rotting or being eaten by rats, which is clearly horrific. Rats should not be hungrily devouring human bodies. They should be hungrily devouring each other's bodies. I think we've made our position on that pretty clear. And while the AGA said that it strongly disagreed with the employee's allegations of mistreatment, that employee also says that he was punished for speaking out, and in the grossest possible way.
Mr. Wheatley says that when he approached his supervisors with his concerns about procedures, 3 dismembered heads from donated bodies were left at his desk.
My boss walked by, I asked him why the heads were at my desk, and he told me they need to get back with their bodies so we can send them to cremation. I said, I understand that. Why are they at my desk? And he told me, well, I don't know, Dale. There's a lot of strange things happening.
Holy shit! I don't know, Dale. There's a lot of strange things happening. If you are bold enough to leave severed heads at someone's desk, why be passive-aggressive? Either you're a direct communicator or you are not. Pick a fucking lane. And body brokers will sometimes make attractive pitches to obtain bodies. Struggling families might be told that they'll receive a cremated portion of their loved one free of charge. Other times, families might be told that their loved one's body will be used to research the exact condition that they died from, which is a lovely idea, but it's just not always the case. Take what happened with Cody Sanders, who died at age 24 from a rare disease, and I'll let his mother explain what happened next.
We couldn't afford a burial for Cody.
Cody's mom, Angie, says someone told her about a company that could help. Restore Life USA offered to handle all of the expenses in exchange for using some of Cody's body for medical research.
All I remember is they were supposed to take skin cells so they could figure out maybe they could figure out that what caused this disease.
You can see why that would be so appealing for her. And it's what makes it so upsetting that a month after Cody died, a reporter from Reuters bought her son's cervical spine for $300 plus shipping from that company. And if you're thinking, how the fuck was that allowed to happen? Well, in almost every state, it is legal to sell the human remains of adults. There are multiple websites where you can buy human bones. Skulls Unlimited, which is actually the company that owned that bone museum you saw earlier, sells skeletons that it guarantees are antiques, decades-old human bones once used in places like medical schools. But under most states' laws, they don't have to be, and it is a good business. By the way, they will sell you a human skull for $2,200 or a rib for $40. You can even buy human teeth for $35 a pop, which is a pretty great deal. And the reason I know that is we bought 24 of them, except of course we didn't. Relax, we're not fucking monsters. But we could have done it if we wanted to. And I am very disappointed by how many people in this room seem genuinely worried that we might have done that. Unbelievable. And you might be thinking, well, this whole story has horrified me so much, I'm keeping everything inside me and I'm taking it to my grave. But it's really important to reiterate just how meaningful organ donation in particular can be. Take what happened to Alyssa Sandine, who would have died without a heart transplant, and 10 years ago, one became available. After this, 20-year-old Kate Leakley was tragically killed by a drunk driver. That transplant saved Alyssa's life. And a few years later, Alyssa met Kate's family. And the result was incredibly moving.
Alyssa decided to meet Kate's family. Over the weekend, they made the drive to Illinois. When they got there, Kate's parents and sister were waiting. Finally, two families bonded by a special gift met face to face.
It's so nice to meet you.
Alyssa came with her own gift, a stuffed teddy bear for the mother to keep, with a sound.
We made a recording of my heartbeat with a stethoscope, and we decided to give that to her so she can keep her daughter's heart with her. It's your daughter's heartbeat. Like, just to hear her heartbeat, I can't explain it.
That is amazing. And let us all agree that Alyssa absolutely nailed that gift. That is about as thoughtful as gift-giving gets. It is certainly better than what I would have done, desperately look at Hallmark cards and then accidentally buy one that says Happy Graduation. The point is, we all know donating organs saves lives, and giving your body to science can save and enhance them too. But what we currently do with those gifts is broken. Far too many people are dying, waiting for organs that could be coming but aren't. And one of them, sadly, is Tonya Ingram, who died last year, never having gotten the transplant that she was waiting for. So what can we do? Well, for organs, we need to raise the standards of how the system operates. And there's actually some good news on that front from, and I cannot believe I'm about to say this, the Trump administration. It actually put a rule in place that provides an objective rather than self-reported metric for measuring the performance of OPOs. And starting in 2026, OPOs who fall below a certain standard will lose their contract. It is one of exactly two good things that we got from the Trump administration alongside this spectacular gay rabbit. Now, that new rule is not perfect. Some experts worry that the standards might punish good OPOs by not properly adjusting for things that aren't in their control, while also allowing struggling OPOs an opportunity to game the system. One particular worry is the so-called pancreas exception, which lets OPOs claim credit for pancreases that aren't transplanted but are recovered for research. And it's not a great sign that one underperforming OPO in Ohio, LifeBank, went from recovering one pancreas for research the year before the new standards were released to 151 so far this year. Also, for what it's worth, the pancreas exception sounds like a direct-to-DVD thriller from 2003 starring Nicolas Cage. As for UNOS, this past September, President Biden signed a bill that could split up its contract and allow others, including for-profit companies, to compete for parts of the services that it now provides. Will that improve the efficiency of our national system? Let's hope so, but the jury is currently out. As for whole bodies donated for research, there is a law awaiting a vote in Congress right now that would ensure donated bodies are not unknowingly contributed to a for-profit industry, which seems like a pretty good idea. But even as we are waiting for these long overdue improvements, let me be very clear about something here. I am an organ donor. When I die and someone is in need of these subpar organs, they can have at them, and nothing that we've researched or covered tonight, however unpleasant it's been, has changed my mind about that decision. And while personally, I wouldn't mind being a skeleton doing a backflip in a museum, I know that my family might have some objections to that. So if you want to, and you haven't already, you should sign up to donate your organs. You can do that at registerme.org. If you want to look into being a living kidney donor, you can learn more at organdonor.gov. And whether you want to donate your organs or your whole body, you should probably have a conversation with your family now about it. And I know it's not easy to talk to them about this, or indeed anything, but it is really important. Because remember, lives are hanging in the balance here. These donations are immensely generous gifts, and we all deserve a system that is worthy of that generosity. One that operates with efficiency, saves as many lives as possible, and that, at the very least, ensures every heart makes its airline connection, and nobody's body unexpectedly winds up sliced and diced in a 2-star business hotel. It's just not too much to ask. That is our show. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week, and now I will leave you with a few more glorious seconds of the most intense training video ever produced.
I know that Jorge was found down. 911 was called. Who was the first person that was notified?
Yeah, she was contacted first. Yeah, you think she had any nerve to call me about anything?
I called you. I called you.
You know how many times?
It's my fault you didn't answer your goddamn phone seriously.
No,
yeah,
enemy
it's my
hermano,
fault,
por favor,
right?
enemy.
Bullshit. No,
All
right, stop.
Whatever.
It's getting a little heavy in here. You doing okay?